My, that was a super dramatic entrance. Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome one and all to another live stream. In the virtual studio is Sally Inkster of Find Brand You. And today our topic is one that's interesting. Because if you're a salesman, values mean one thing. If you're a brand, values can mean something quite different. So I'm going to ask you, Sally Inkster, we're talking about values.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I mean the personal values that are the guiding light for how you live your life.
All right.
Do you want to go bigger on that, or was that?
No, hang on a moment. So is it almost, are we saying like a personal manifesto?
Yes. I mean, it's not that long because I get people to define 10, find their very top 3, and work on those 3 so that you are always doing them. Whatever decision you make, they're based on those values. Whatever post you put in somewhere or other, your voice of that value comes through. But the trouble is, I mean, we change, don't we? So the values we had when we were 8 are not going to be the same as we have when we're 80, or they may or may not be, because we have children, we have jobs, we have different things that happen in our life. And so at particular times, another value is more important to us than it used to be. And that's not a problem, but it's knowing what they are, because otherwise decision making is very, very hard. I also think you need to have a sense of direction, whether that comes from a culture, whether that comes from your family. Your values are based in those, but you can run your own. And that's great because they are so important to us and how we live.
But it's knowing which value is those to uphold when you come to review them. Because as you say, time moves on, and here you are 10 years later, and you've now got children, wife, family who are pulling you in a different direction than before when you were a bachelor or bachelorette, working towards a future full of busy business. And so your values may be more about how do I spend more time alone or at home? Sorry, same thing. Or how do you spend more time caring for your family? How do you spend more time preparing for the future? But your overall values, which might be about sharing and support, could still remain the same.
They can. And lots of people, when you say what's your number one value, will say family. Now, actually, family is a generic term. It's not really a family. You can look at the word family and say, okay, what does it mean to me? Does it mean support? Does it mean competitiveness? Does it mean growth? Does it mean disturbance? You know, family can mean such different things to such different people. So it's defining, when you say my value is my family, you've got to define what you mean by that. So one of my values, and it's always been this way, has been balance.
Yes.
Because whatever I do, I like balance. If I'm with 2 people and they're giving 2 points of view, I can always find either the compromise or the middle ground or where they are. I quite like doing mediation with people, but I like balance in life. When I look at things, I like them to be balanced. I like the garden to look balanced. I like rooms to look balanced. I like my clothes to look balanced. I'm very in. That's one of my words, balance.
So compromise in values. Do you compromise on your values?
Do you compromise on your values? I don't think you should when you've got them down to your top 3, because that makes your judgment better. So let's come up, and 2 people want to work with you. Okay. One of them is your ideal client who you understand, you get her. Somebody else is coming to you and you don't actually like them. You know, that gut instinct is, but they're going to pay you. Yeah. They're going to pay you more money. Okay. Now, I know in this day and age, we desperately need the money at times, and people will lump for the one that their gut instinct went, no, it's not going to work. And when you look at that decision they made a year down the line, they go, oh, I made the wrong one. I went after the money and it didn't work. They shafted me. It went wrong. Whereas if you follow your gut instinct with that one, then you're going the right way.
So is gut, are you saying that gut instinct will always steer you correctly?
In my experience, for me, huge more percentage wise than not. So there are certain things that, you know, you have to put your head on. But I always think if somebody says, and I say, well, what's your gut instinct? They go, well, I don't know. I'm like, okay, do that. And then I'll say to them, how did that make you feel when I said do that one? And they go, oh, my heart sunk. I go, okay.
There's your answer. There's your answer. I remember I took on a client a couple of years ago. And from the get-go, I knew there was something weird going on. It was every time I said something, he would say, look, I don't have time for this. That was his buy phrase.
Yeah.
Just do what you think is right. I don't have time for this. And then when it came to when we did the renewal date, he said, well, you weren't listening and you did things wrong. And I said, but you never said you had any time for us. So you told us to make the decisions. No, I didn't.
Yeah. And you knew that was going to happen. Your gut knew that.
I probably could have predicted it. But at a time, he was offering to pay me 3 or 4 times what I thought. Yes. And I've learned. I mean, that was a few years ago now. But I remember every time we would have a review meeting, my heart would be gradually descending through my stomach. You know what I mean? Well, you know you have to do a thing, but you're really not looking forward to it.
No, it's not a good way to live life, is it? So defining your values and following them, just being aware of what they are. Because if you ask people, what are your values? They look at you and they will usually say, as I said, they'll say family.
I'll say family, of course.
Yeah, is always number one. They'll sometimes say freedom.
Yeah, I struggle with that one because I don't think people understand what freedom actually is.
No, you have to delve down deeper to freedom. What does that mean? You know, does that mean you don't want a house to live in? You don't.
Or does it just mean freedom to choice and nobody else choosing for you?
Yes.
Or does it mean living off grid so you're not beholden to anyone? Or does it mean being able to say what you want without recourse? Yes. You've got to define it very carefully.
Yeah. And all of them you do have to define, but you know in your heart what you mean by that word.
Yes.
And that's all that matters. You've got to follow it. So another one of mine always has been is empathy. Now, do not confuse empathy with sympathy, because my husband will tell you I am the most unsympathetic person in the world. Hence why I was a nurse.
I'm feeling so sorry for him right now.
Because I'm not overly sympathetic, but I do have empathy with people.
When he stubs his toe during the night on the side of the bed or something as he's going for a glass of water, do you laugh?
Oh yes.
Terrible woman.
I have to tell you, 99% of women would laugh as well. You know.
Yes, I know the word, and it's what always gets me. That there you go. You'll feel bad at how much it hurts, but you'll still laugh your head off because it's slapstick comedy. Yeah.
You know, if you try to explain to me the pain, I would have empathy about the pain because I've done that myself. I know what it feels like.
Everyone has.
Yeah. I probably didn't make quite as much fuss, but you know.
little dig. All right. So having empathy is an important one of your values.
Yes.
So that is the ability to almost put yourself in the other person's shoes?
Yes. It's having an understanding of how they're feeling that comes just automatically without having to think about it too much. I get how you're feeling.
Yeah. So, and how does that link with an understanding of how to build a brand for someone?
Because you're trying to be empathetic with your clients out there. You know who your clients are, so you have empathy with how they're feeling. So if you have that empathy, you can understand what they need to hear from you.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's another big thing with values, because some values we can just keep completely for ourselves. I'm empathetic. If every friend I've got isn't empathetic as well, that's sort of okay. But say I had a personal value of trust, in that I trusted everybody, I would expect them to have the same value, because otherwise our relationship couldn't work. So some values we can just have them, and we're not too concerned whether everybody else around us has the same one. There are other values we have that we cannot have a relationship easily with somebody who does not have that same value somewhere in their system. And the understanding of that is incredibly important.
Gosh, there's a lot more to this, isn't there? So being able to understand values, obviously you need to be able to break them down. I suspect that many of your clients, when they first come to you, aren't entirely sure what their values are. How do you pull that out of them?
We do it instinctively. And so I give them lots of words, and people can do this at home. You have lots of words, lots of values, and you just go, well, that one isn't, that one is, and that one is, and that one is, and they end up with a huge list. And then I have a way that we whittle that down to get to the top three.
And by that time, what those top three values, are they going to form part of what you would create as a branding exercise? How would that manifest?
Okay, how would that come over? Well, some of your branding is having content. So if I am trying to help a client understand what content they can have, if you understand your values, and one by one, so in a particular social media post or even in a blog, whatever, you go, okay, these are my values, and I'm going to explain to you why and how they affect me and what it means I do. Because then if somebody reads that post or reads that blog, they're going to go, oh, that's how I feel. And that's an amazing thing to have done on a social media post, is to kick into somebody's emotions and go, oh my God, she's the same as I am. You know, that's incredible. But that's what we're trying to do. When you're building a personal brand, you are trying to find all the things that make you relatable to other people. But those things must be you. They can't just be, oh, this would be relatable to somebody and that would be relatable, so I'll put them out because then they'll relate. That's not the point. They've got to be to do with you, that your client will then relate to you because of that.
I think
that was a lot of words that didn't say anything.
No, I think you said something. I think what you're saying is values are very personal, fundamentally.
They are, yes.
And that two companies that ostensibly do the same thing can have two completely different sets of values.
Yes, absolutely. And so particular clients would be far better off with one than the other. And it's up to you to show that client which one you are.
But you've got to be able to get on with their values. Otherwise, you're going to find it. You're going to probably struggle getting on with them long term as either a client or as a service provider.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how relationships work. Because often, if you've got similar values or the same values or understand somebody's values, then you know that you could live with them, work with them, be with them. But it's never a question we ask anybody, is it? We do it by instinct. You know, and that gut, we go, oh, I like them. Sometimes we have no idea why. But then when you start chatting to them, you will find that perhaps their childhood was quite similar to yours, and that their parents had the same sort of values as your parents did, so that you inherited a couple of those. Some of them you can make up yourself, obviously, but you inherited a couple of those. But that's why you like that person, because you're grounded in the same values.
It's so interesting, isn't it? So the very way in which you're exposed to influences, which could be anything from do you realize one of the two groups of things that bonded my wife and I together was music from our youth, and television adverts. Just knowing silly jingles. just knowing silly jingles or whatever. And because we're both pretty much the same age, we've got the similar exposure. Even though she came from a farming community and I came from sort of a middle class Jewish community, you'd think there'd be very little in common. But these two areas have, over the years, bonded us. A shared love of ska and music of all sorts, and soul, and a shared love of silly adverts.
Mm-hmm.
And it I don't know why it's those senses that you pick up when you're younger can really inform the way in which you deal with others, and the way in which you deal with others, and the way in which your business deals with others can be termed your values, I guess.
Yes. And that's what you're trying to get over. I mean, I do, when I'm helping somebody with their personal brand, we look at their personal values, but we also look at their business values. And they don't have to be the same. They're not going to be the same if you're in a team of people. If you're just a sole trader like I am, they'll invariably be similar, but they don't always be the same. And we look at them in a different way so that you can explain your business values to your clients as well as your personal values to your clients.
So, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. This is Sally really trying to dig in and school me on how values and where they've come from can really affect the way in which you present yourself through your branding. This is yet another one in the series where we talk about different aspects of branding and how it can affect you. It just remains for me to thank you, Sally, for taking the time out of your busy day. And guys, if you've really enjoyed this, please tune in next week around about the same time. We are always whittling on about this sort of thing. And actually, I find them really entertaining and very enjoyable. And I hope you do too. Until then, I wish you all a successful week, it being hump day and all. And of course, great mental health. Bye-bye now.
Take care. Bye.